Okay, I'm back here, and for this video, we're going to go through and test everything. So this is not going to be so much as a dev video, even though that's what I'm going to label it as. We're going to test all the content video. Now we're back to running the main Minecraft client. So what we've been doing the last few videos, we've been running the Minecraft 2 client, which contains very few of my mods. This is the complete client of everything I work on. So as you can tell, it's pretty packed full of content. Took it about 8 minutes to load. And we've got our old JSON blocks in here. By the way, I guess we can test these real quick. Yeah, the rotation still works. I'm still impressed of how easy the rotation is on this. Whoever develops any blocks using this doesn't have to write rotation code for them. All they gotta do is say they want to rotate the block, which those work. Our tile render works. Little cube here, and is unfortunately. I almost like the rainbow particle effect. That is pretty cool. That is completely accidental, but I'm a little too happy about that. Okay, so we got a lot of stuff to test. So the first thing we want to test is ICBM. It's basically my flagship mod. For those of you who don't know what flagship means, it's the main product that you make. For cell phone companies, this would be their primary cell phone, or as they call it, their flagship cell phone. For BuiltBrokenModding, ICBM is our flagship mod. It's technically supposed to be VoltsEngine, but it's hard to market VoltsEngine because most people don't understand what it is. So for this, we're going to go through and test everything. We're going to just first start with placing things. Okay, so we got the AMS turret, it places, it renders properly. Here's the station which controls the AMS turrets. We're going to go ahead and link these, I think. I think the link this is just this real quick. Data set. Okay. Okay, so these are linked. By the way, AMS turrets work by default. You don't have to set them up to an FOF station. However, if you don't link to an FOF station, these will shoot every missile fired. If you do not link your FOF station to your missile platforms, they also mess up, but I don't remember how to do that, actually. It's pretty sad when the creator of something doesn't remember how to utilize his own software. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we got this. This is the standard launcher, and I'm going to really quickly get a wrench in order to finish building this. I need to make tutorials and all this stuff eventually. I might do that here later. The top of this isn't rendering properly. It is working though. Actually, let me. I wonder if it's a. No, it's not functioning. Let me break this and recreate it. I think it automatically breaks itself if you. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Oh, that's weird. Okay, these slimes are annoying. Options. Goodbye. So we're gonna go ahead and place all 4 corners. So this is a bug that probably popped up when I redid the multi-block code. Not that these are actually multi-blocks, this is what's called a multi-structure, which means each one of these blocks is independent from each other, but they're going to all function as if they are multi-blocks. That being said, the bottom block is actually a multi-block. So when you actually create this, it creates a block right here, which actually handles the silo placement. So we're going to place this. Yeah, so the render on all these is broken. So what should happen is this top render should be slanted, and it's not doing its job. It's unusual. Let's go ahead and place missiles in all these to make sure it renders properly. I still need to get the new textures implemented for this. Okay, so these work. So these place correctly. Of course, these missiles won't fire because unfortunately it's an empty rocket. So by putting those in there, I kind of self-defeated myself there. As I'm going to have to make another one of these real quick just to test to see if it does fire properly. Okay, I'm kind of disappointed that the top doesn't render. Let's go look at the code real quick. Looks like we've got some packet issues going on here. These are ignorable. If you ever see a packet go null, it means it sent a packet to something that doesn't exist, and that's usually the multi-block code failing. Not exactly a good way to say that, though. Shouldn't be any errors in my mods, but there's a couple that float around. It's one of the unfortunate things. I'm pretty much the only developer that works on everything. When you see how many projects I've got here, it's hard to keep up with them all, but I want to continue making more content for you guys, and that means more projects. So we get launcher. We want standard launcher, and what I'm actually looking for is under blocks. So it's tile launcher frame. And what this is supposed to do is if the metadata gets set to 1. So we need to check to see if what the metadata is. Metadata is 0, so the metadata isn't being set, which means it's a flaw in the creation code. Block launcher frame. The text for clear path with launcher, okay. Count equals 5. We set the block to a new launcher. Okay, and that's going to be this thing right here. Okay, this sets a multi-block structure. So it's not just this bottom block with a multi-block, so it's this one, and it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's actually should be 6. Unless I'm misunderstanding something here. It's nothing to worry about at the moment. Okay, no, it only does make one block. It makes one at the bottom. Okay, so that's understandable. I actually should populate all of them, so that prevents you from placing blocks on here, but we'll do that another time. So we got, what do we got going on here? Okay. There should be another block up here. Ooh. There's a bug somewhere. So it's counting 6. It's how many blocks there should be. Well, count is less than or equal to 6. Plus count. So we're counting ourselves plus 5 blocks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and yet that's not the 6th block. Maybe ourself plus 5 is what we want here. So if we don't equal 6, we get the first block here. That's what is happening right there, actually. So those 4 silos over here should have de-auth themselves. Yeah, they just broke. They dropped all their missiles. And then that means in here, this needs to be 6. So somewhere I decided to set the height to 6, but the height has been set to 5 at some point. The trick is, do I want to lower the height requirement, or do I want to raise it at that 6? We're going to lower it. So let me redo this. This is going to be 5. So this will be 5. And what we're going to do is we're going to come over here and we're going to set the count to 5. And this needs to be a static variable at some point, but we'll leave to do notes. To do. Okay, this needs to be 5. Yeah, look, and like they're set to 5 like everywhere, but for some reason this one got set to 6, and that's the problem. So this needs to be +5, +5. Yeah, and you see that gives me the height object here. And if I go over here and make all these, who knows how long that's been a bug. That's the thing. That's the problem when I don't get bug reports. Nobody's reporting bugs. Nobody's giving me feedback or anything. I assume everything's correct. And this is I'm not the only one that does this. Almost all developers do this. The only time we ever discover bugs is if somebody tells us or we find them ourselves. And the problem is a lot of us developers do not play our own mods because, I mean, who wants to be playing with the things you work on? But these work now, so we just need to test fire them. So we're going to put cake missiles, and you know, instead of just doing these all cake missiles, so this is a microwave, we can't test that. Endothermic. The reason we can't test the microwave one is we got to hit water with it. Here's a fragmentation one that does arrows. And then let's do a fragmentation cobble charge. This will give us a good indication of how everything's working. We'll end up testing some more missiles here in a second, but we want to test these guys. And we're going to test the launch controller on this thing. Okay, I'm going to have to link this. I still need to fix this where if you place this, it links properly. Oh, already linked. What? Oh, there we go. Okay, so we want to set the coordinates, and is the night changing? No, it's locked. Okay, we want a radar gun. Set for that poor little village. Data transferred. Goes up. Okay, fire's been placed. Turret's trying to kill things. That's what you just saw, is it just tried to shoot at the missile and it didn't do anything. Okay, missile went up all the way up there, and let me get the, oh, I didn't want the calculator, I want the console. And that missile's falling, I can see it out of the corner of my eye. There we go. That's a cake missile. So, that should have deployed a cake. We'll get closer and see if it did its job. Yep. And you got a nice birthday candle, which is the missile. That's perfect. I love how well these work. So nice. The reason why the missile's sticking out of the cake is the missile itself is rendering the cake. Once you pick it up, it turns into normal cake, and then if I had hunger bar, I could eat the cake. Interesting thing to note is that on certain days, this is not a normal cake, this is a poison cake, or actually I think it's the other way around. I think by default it just drops a normal cake. Well, there's supposed to be a lot too, and if you look at this, it drops engine and it's got its guidance still in there, so the only thing that disappeared was the explosive charge, and I may modify that, because what this is supposed to be is that's supposed to be our prefab for our block delivery missile, so it's a missile that will drop blocks. But we need to test the rest of these. Render distance is a bit low on the missiles. I don't know if this is controllable. Actually, I don't know how you adjust that. I think it's enforced by either Minecraft or Forge. One of the two decides what the render distance of tiles are. If these were ISBRs, they would render at the same distance everything else renders, which I really do want to make a lot of these ISBRs. I think in newer versions that's actually been solved. So we tested the controller on here. What we're going to do is we're going to test the more complicated system. I need to get rid of this stuff. Get rid of this stuff. I want to keep the connector. Okay, so we need a silo commander, controller, and an antenna part. These are all craftable, right? Yes. We haven't been checking that. Okay. I'm not very good at making sure that stuff has crafting recipes when I note this. So if you ever see something that doesn't have a crafting recipe, just tell me, I'll fix it. Okay, so controller needs an antenna. The reason we're using the more complicated system is I want to make sure it works, and then I built this system for myself and nobody else because I actually want to have this really nice render system. I actually need to fix this state right here. That's actually, we don't have a model for that centerpiece, I don't think, and it hasn't been too big of an issue to fix. Suppose that we're going to get new models. These were made by, I believe, Grogger. He did an amazing job on them. They look really, really cool. A little gothic, but cool. So we're done with that. I need a wrench. I shouldn't have thrown that away. Okay, so this has to be set into online mode and has to be set to generate a network. So what this does is this communicates with other antennas and will link up with the other antennas, and this will link to this. By default, what happens if when we go to receive a signal, this receives the signal at the base here. It passes it to this. This then passes it to this. And when this wants to send a signal, it sends it to this, and then this sends it to everywhere else. This works, and I need to call this test station, I guess. You got to name your stuff. I do need to fix the GUI. This will also have some network configuration in it, with something I still need to finish. And I need to link some things. So I think it's this to this. And then gotta link each individual one of these. I believe each one of these can have so many connections to it. So this is a group ID. So this will be group A, and then we call it group A. Technically we can put a space there. So there's an ID and then there's a display name. How this works, by the way, is you just put a station somewhere. I'm going to put the station above here. It doesn't matter where you stick it as long as it's within a certain distance. And I believe it's connecting this to this. There we go. And this gives us a GUI, and then from here we can control all of our missile silos. This allows an infinite number of connections to it, so you can have millions upon millions. It's all limited on just how functional Minecraft will behave with everything shown. Luckily, it is designed so it's only going to show you one page of information, and then each page is limited on the number of silos that can be on a page. I think this has a scroll bar when you add it, or not scroll bar, has some up and down buttons to shift the page here. Everything else. We could fire these and it'll tell you when they're online. There's different signals used, so there's online as in you can access and fire it now. I believe there's a yellow dot which tells you it is a functional silo, so the silo is there, but you can't connect to it because it's unchunk loaded. And there's red, which means you can't do anything with that silo. There's no stasis ID on it. Or maybe it's red, which is unloaded chunk-wise, and it's yellow, which is it detects the tile, but it doesn't know what the tile is doing. We're not going to fire this. Actually, what we're going to do, we need to test two different systems here. First, we're going to do the laser detonator, because that's the most used item. How you do this is you just open this up, pick your silo, and right now you can only encode one silo, and the silo has to be named. So we're going to hit save to make sure we save this, and we want to encode, so we encode the laser detonator. Future versions are going to have much more flexibility and functionality. They'll be able to fire weapon groups, so you'll be able to fire all the missiles in Group A, you'll be able to chain fire the missiles in Group A, you'll be able to do a whole bunch of other things. It's on the feature list, I just haven't got around to it. So with the laser detonator, we're going to travel a little bit of distance. There is a limit to how far away I can get from that antenna. I don't think I have to worry about it though. And I think it says left click. No, right click. ETA 1 second. It's going to take longer than a second for that missile to fly, so that ETA is actually wrong. I'll update it later. It actually isn't too far off. It's more like 10 seconds, but that works pretty good. Looks pretty badass too. By the way, the purple smoke is because that's a creative mode engine. and it automatically does create remote edges. And that should have been our cake missiles, what that should have been. And get closer. Yep, cake missile. So we're going to get our next one, and we're going to fire... We'll fire the next one with this as well. But then the next two we're going to fire with a remote detonator. So I need to get silo 2, so we got to come back in here. One of these is wrong. So this is going to be, we're going to call this B. I'm going to rename all the silos real quick. Okay, so we want to mess with B. We want to encode this. I don't know what B is, because I don't think the system isn't designed yet to tell you what's in the silo, and I don't think I ever will do that way, because you got to think in real life. Is there a way to tell what missile you have in a tube in real life? All you know, you have a missile in the tube. Now, I may make an advanced, like, tier 2 version or tier 3 or so on version, and keep in mind when I say tier, I'm thinking technology levels, not progression levels, because you'll be able to craft any tier from any level, because I don't believe in gating things. Other developers will gate things, but it's not the way I like to do stuff. Somehow my scroll lock got turned on. Oh well. We'll just fire it. Get a little closer this time so we can see the impact. You know what, we probably can't see things from distance, is I've got my render distance turned on. Now I might make this left click here, because I've gotten so used to the Armory mod's ability to left click with guns, and that missile launched, right? Yep, there we go. Yeah, I don't know if we got enough time to check all of the mods. We'll probably just do the ICBM content today. I'll call that the end of the day, and then I'll do some of the other mods later. I gotta go through MFFS pretty strong here, because I'm getting complaints that it isn't working, and I haven't been involved in the process. I've been letting other developers work on MFFS because I don't really have that strong of an interest to work on it. But that worked. We got snow. And I think I need to increase the speed of block placement on some of the threads. I think there's something wrong with the sorting algorithm too. So you notice how it's progressing in a diamond shape? This actually needs to be changed to a distance check, is what that actually needs to be changed to. Wow, that's still spreading. The randomization is working though. If you notice we got random snow levels, that was an introduction into the endothermic. Eventually this is going to be where you'll have a pile of snow in the middle of the missile, and as it goes out, the snow will thin out, and you'll start to get speckled spots instead of connected layers. The lore background behind that is that what you're doing is you're sucking all the energy out of the atmosphere into the missile. So the missile is going to have an energy bank eventually into it, and you could actually use these missiles to collect energy if you really wanted to, although it wouldn't be cost effective, but it's something you could do. The more ideal way, or more ideal usage it would be, is somebody use this missile against you, and you can take the energy modular out of it and use it yourself. That'll be at least one type. We'll make multiple types of endothermic. This one's actually meant to be a magic-based endothermic. There will be scientific-based ones. There'll be energy-based ones. We'll add a variety. They'll all do the same thing, but there'll be a different way to craft them. And most likely we'll try to add as much support for different mods as possible. But this did work, and you can see now we have a circle pattern from above. That's the reason I need to fix that algorithm a little bit, because it's doing the diamond shape. Because how the pathfinding works does work in the diamond shape pathfinding. Because it uses a breadth first search, or maybe it's a depth first. I want to say it's a breadth first, which basically means it goes around the edge instead of going depth-wise. But I may be wrong. It may be a depth search, and there's not a lot of ways I can test that. I'll come up with a way to test it later, and if I do, I'll show it off, because I kind of want to work on ICBM more, and I guess you guys probably want to watch ICBM more. Even though I'm finding the Armory mod exciting and stuff, it's hard to see why I'm excited about it, because they're guns. There's so many mods that have guns, there's so many games that have guns that they're not as interesting anymore. Anyways, we want the remote detonator. The remote detonator should work because how this functions is the laser detonator extends the remote detonator and has the same functionality. The only difference is how it calls the silo. This sends out a radio signal that has coordinates in it. This one does not send out one with coordinates. And these actually do work as radio signals, by the way. That's how they're designed. So you could capture, intercept, modify, and screw with people's radio signals if there was a mod for that. There is not one right now. So this one pops a radio message out onto the radio system, and the antenna picks up the radio message. This also means that if you had multiple stations, all coded with the same group IDs and had the same silo names, you could, in theory, pop off multiple missiles at the same time. Although this has a pass key in it, that's the reason why you have to encode it, is there's a password on the silo to prevent people from hacking your silos. It does, oh yeah, it does show the passcode. The passcode only shows up in debug mode. In the regular version, it does not show the passcode. It also shows you the radio signal. Right now it's set to 0. All radio signals are set to 0 because there's not a lot of functionality set to it. And you can't really hack each other's radio signals anyway, so there's no need to change the radio signal. But we're on C, which means C needs to be laser guided real quick, so we need to do this. And I need to set the last 2 to the same signal. And we're actually only going to fire one of these with the remote detonator. There we go. Why do we have a missile still in one of these silos? I must have stuck a missile back into it and didn't realize it. Oh shit. That's coming right back on top of us. At least we know the AMS starts working. Oh, thank God that's only a... Let me go set the other 2 silos. There's definitely a bug there. Okay, failed to fire missile, check target data. That means that silo is empty pretty much. So silo C. And it'll tell you what silo, because the silo is basically sending a radio message back to you. That's not always going to be the case. There's going to be 2 different versions of the remote detonator. Eventually there'll be one that just functions, so it won't even tell you what happens. You'll just click it and it does something. This one is the tier 2 one. So the current one is technically the tier 2 one, because not only does it tell you that your missile's been fired, it also tells you what happens if it fails to fire and everything. So what are these, like, I need to add wireless support so I can hover over these and see what silos these are. So, silo A is empty, silo B is empty, says silo C is empty, that was silo D. Okay, so even though this says there's a missile here, this is not here. That's a render bug. And that's going to land over there, and this should be the one, the fragmentation one. This one's going to throw up a lot of debris. I need to get closer so we can see this. I believe this is a laggy missile, so it might take a second. Come on, do your thing. Okay, that missile might be broken. Let me scroll down. Okay. Oh, nope, nope. Shoot that. Well. Crashed. Last thing I wanted to happen. That's why we crashed. I screwed up a bug in one of the prefabs. Ah, man. It hurts when this crashes because of the fact that this takes so long to load. I was hoping to avoid crashing at any point in time. Actually, you know what? Before we launch, before I forget to do this, what do we got? We're at 30 minutes? Okay, so we need to set a constant for this here. So public static final standard launcher height equals 5. and then we replace every single time we see the number 5. I have a feeling I have done this before, by the way. I've fixed this, but there's this weird thing where I'll think I've done something and it didn't happen, and I can't tell if it actually did happen and something reversed the changes, because I've actually had source tree completely screwball me and reverse changes, and I didn't know it happened, and then I'm here like 3 days later going like, why isn't this working anymore? You'll be surprised how often that happens. Count plus, okay, that all looks good. So this needs to be block, launcher part, and that. Technically, I could have put the static variable in here, but I'm going to leave it in the launcher thing. And the reason why there's a separate block for the launcher itself, and there's a thing called launcher parts, is the CPU computer is recyclable, which means I can use this for the next 2 iterations of the launchers. So there's going to be a medium and there's going to be a large, and they're going to be crafted using the same exact system. So you'll set up a frame, a multi-block frame, and you'll click it with a screwdriver and it'll build. Yeah, it'll work out pretty well. So all looks good, and we're going to run debug again, and we're going to launch it, and fortunately I'm going to have to wait till it launches, and this could be anywhere from 2 minutes to 7 minutes is how long it takes. I usually say 5 because 5 is somewhere between there, and that's kind of how it works, and we can watch the time here. So started at 8:40. Trying to think of what else we can do real quick while we wait for it to launch. This is why I also need unit testing, is that bug would have been detected via unit testing. Because all the unit tests run automatically like they ran over here. The code stuff runs. Code generator is working perfectly. I have yet to have an issue with it. I got told by so many developers when I proposed that a while back that it would break on me. I have yet have it to break. Every single time we launch, it regenerates the code from the code generator, which has been quite a lot considering I've made several videos here and I've launched out how many times, and this is still going to run. So I'm not going to mess with these. So there's not a lot of other things to test. I do need to test that modulars work, which is the main reason I'm doing this, is I changed enough code in the backend for the abstract modular that it's potential that some of the modulars could fail. Seeing as the missile, when I pull it out of the creative tab, is still working properly, I don't think there's any issues. Most of the modulars don't really save much data. The only thing they really save is some settings, which will be triggers would be where I need to check because they have settings on them. Not that you can edit the settings on triggers yet, that's going to be coming in a future iteration. And what that'll let you do is you could modify the hardness detection. So you wouldn't have to know the hardness of the block, but in theory what you could do by detecting the hardness detection is that if you hit dirt, don't set your missile off. I know that sounds anti-useful, but say you wanted to know if you hit a stone building and you wanted to hit the stone building with the area, but you didn't want to kill anything that was in the dirt area around the building. So say if there was livestock around the building, but you only wanted to kill the inhabitant of the stone building, you could set your trigger up to only detonate when you hit the stone. This is going to be more useful for strategic players that want to be doing very, very specific things. It could be designed for raiding, where you want to make sure you're taking out very specific targets and you want to leave as much of the building intact as possible. Other than that, I pretty much just implemented it for the hell of it. And cool, both my videos are uploaded, so I don't need to look at that page anymore. I can get rid of that page. And we're still waiting for this to load. So we're at 2 minutes now. We're verging on 3. And it's just now entering phase 3 of loading. Now we've got the texture loading. We're now on 3 minutes of loading. Stitching all the textures together. Restitch the textures again. That's twice. Loading the sounds. Sounds can take a while to load. Trying to think of what mod I have actually has a ton of sounds in it. It's not my mods. I barely add sounds. I think ICBM is like the most, which has like somewhere up in the range of 10 plus sounds. Armory mod will probably end up being the most sounds because you'll need pretty much 6 sounds per weapon. Okay, that was a little over 3 minutes. We're very close to 4 on load time. So almost close on my 5-minute mark. So I'm going to go back to testing. Load time probably has improved because I have been toying with load time on my mods. I think I stripped a mod out of my workspace, which might protest why it's loading faster now. That and my computer isn't being taxed like normal. Usually normally like I'm running Netflix in the background or something. Okay. Oh, there's all our fragments. Cool. And you saw some of the fragments in there too. Key point, by the way, the fragmentation missiles are pretty laggy, so if you are a mod pack developer and you don't like the idea of lag, those are probably something you want to remove. I will be adding settings to disable fragments because every explosive has fragments actually. If it explodes, it has a fragmentation system attached to it. But we're going to test the rocket launcher real quick, since we know that the launch systems work perfectly fine. I want to test to see if that works. And these are like really laggy explosives. I gotta think of a way to make them faster. They're very destructive too, by the way. This is to mirror real life to some extent. I need to drop the velocities because if you notice they fling pretty far. Some of these in real life would not go this far. Like we're throwing stone. Stone is heavy. It is really heavy. Close range it'd be lethal, long range it wouldn't do squat. And this explosive is not very big. Yeah, I need to drop the number of fragments down. The reason it's so high though is that these explosives are meant to be lethal via fragmentation. You know what's weird? The blast system should. Oh, that's right, because only the simple paths have this system attached to it. So what's another explosion I have that has? I will test the TNT just to make sure. Oh yeah, it's got fragments. Why wasn't the RPG earlier have fragments on it? So we were testing in the last couple videos an RPG for a client's mod. So let's go find his mod real quick. It's probably in the back here. That's right. His RPG shows up in the armory mod because I haven't fixed the armory mod setting content for its system. Actually, you know why the fragments haven't been showing up? Because we don't have ICBM loaded into the other workspace. So the fragmentation system is part of ICBM, but it's going to end up being part of Volt's engine eventually. There we go, fragments. So cool. There's wood fragments in there, there's stone fragments, I think I saw a couple glass ones. By the way, they burn too, so the fragments catch on fire. They work out pretty well. It's basically meant to be an extra lethal system, so that way you do more damage with explosions. It's meant to give you that extra bang for your buck. But that works, so let's get back to testing things. So what else do we want to test? I don't want to test the crafting system. That's for another video. I've tested the automation recently. I know it works. The automation just takes forever to deal with. So I'm going to call it there. So most of the content works in ICBM. There's no problems. I do need to still fix the standard silo. I'm amazed I get bug reports for this because do you see the words? You see the words work in progress in red, right? Most people would understand that if there's a thing that says red, that says something, that you probably don't want to use that, especially considering if you hover over top of it, it's not craftable. So I hit R, it's not craftable. Everything else in here is craftable, so you can look at it as craftable. That's the way you actually know if something is development or not development, is if you can craft it or can't craft it. Like you can't craft, well, I guess you can craft the basic thrusters, even though you can't fuel them up, which I kind of feel bad for that. I need to finish those. Can't craft the antis. Actually, the antis, by the way, if you drop them, they'll disappear. Any creative mode item in Volt's engine disappears. These aren't implemented yet, so you can't craft them. By default, everything has a mechanical impact sensor in it. And you see why these have impact energy. You would have to figure out what the impact energy was. This would be the weight of the missile times like a certain value. Electrical impacts will be a little bit more intelligent. You could actually say you want to detect for certain things, so it would do the math for you. The main difference between mechanical and electrical is this is basically like an acidic trigger. How this works is it's got a crush, it crushes and releases acid, which then creates an electrical signal, which then sets the missile off. This, on the other hand, is basically like a push button. Um, this is more resilient, but has a tendency to fail more often. This can only take so much energy, but will never fail, basically. Then you got redstone trigger, which is a vanilla version of this, and this basically almost always works, but isn't going to have any settings. Even though it shows a minimum and maximum on it, it won't have settings. It's basically an on and off button. So if you don't want your missile to fail, you use this. If you want to use some cool settings, use this. If you want to use some other settings, use that one. There's going to be tons and tons of sensors implemented. But what else we got here? Fall off isn't implemented yet. I do need to add fuel. There's a lot of work I got to do on these. That's the reason why I've been avoiding updating to newer versions. Is this mod is nowhere close to done still. We got so much content in here. We got so many things, but I mean, anybody can observe the fact that I'm missing so many explosives out of here. Even though this tab is huge, the bottom half of here are biome explosives. Here's the entity ones, so those are just taking up most of them. If you remove all those below there, we've only got about a dozen types, basically a handful. We got things like antimatter. I guess right before we go, we can test a couple more of these explosives to see if they work. So we got antimatter. I definitely need to switch that to a left thing. By the way, if you notice, this has got a particle effect to it now. It shoots out redstone and smoke. I'm trying to make sure all these eventually get particle effects. I haven't been doing it so far because of the fact that it takes a lot of work. Okay, that works. Of course, we know the cake missile works. Okay, the microwave one we can only test with water. Ah, there's water over here. Boom, no water. That one is especially made. This is one I actually came up with like years ago when I was like, you know what? If somebody has an atomic science reactor that requires water, shoot it with this thing. So we got the endothermic, which we've already tested. That's what the snow is, basically. Okay, we got the fragment. We've already tested this one. Shoots out arrows. By the way, when it comes to things being on fire from fragmentation missiles, it's like a percentile chance. They're not always on by default. And per tick they fly through the air, there's a chance they'll go out. There we go. We got the fragmentation one. I probably need to decrease fragments. I may make a setting where you can turn off rendering of them and various other things, because I think it's the rendering is the problem. Frame rate only drops by like 10 when I fire it. I mean, I got a half decent graphics card. I don't have a top of the line one. Yeah, that works. Okay, anti-torch eater, so there's some torches right there. Villages are so fun to test the stuff with. There we go, torches are gone. That one's literally just made because somebody's like, I can hide from your Slenderman monster by just putting torches everywhere. It's like, no you can't. Okay, slime rain. This is one of my favorite ones actually. It's working, right? This one's probably bugged. This one I think is finicky, in which it sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. Because there's a minimum distance I think you can be near somebody to spawn entities. Blame Minecraft for it. We tested the TNT ones already. We'll test a spawn missile. Okay, of course we're in peaceful mode, so we can't actually spawn anything. You know what, we're going to test the slime rated one again, except I'm going to test with a bigger missile. Is it going to work now? Yeah, okay. Oh, you know why it's not working? Derp. Look at my colorful slimes. This is Terraria inspired, in case anybody wants to know. Oh man, this is so cool. By the way, this does check how many slime ray missiles you've got running, and it tries to minimize the number of slimes you have. So if you try to spawn tons of these, you're not going to get more if you fire more missiles. Just remember that. That's basically done because I want to make sure that these aren't designed to be lag machines because, yeah. By the way, if you kill these guys, you don't get any slime from them. They are literally just to be a nuisance. You do get XP from them, though. So they are basically free XP. Oh, and because there's a mod that doesn't really care, apparently they're going to drop. Actually, you know what? There's slime around here. So maybe the item drops are still enabled on these. Oh well. I don't think it's a craftable explosive. We haven't tested EMP. Let's test anti-grav. I can't test EMP unless I want to do a setup with it. Why isn't the anti-grav working? Huh. That might be bugged, unless I disabled it. I don't remember which. Okay, here's an exothermic. Goodbye, slimes. You has been murdered. Okay. And I believe that's it for the explosives. That's it for the testing. So that shows the mod. Oh, wait, there's ore updraft and plant life. Damn, we got a couple more missiles to test. I'm not going to test them all. Actually, I'll test one more, but then I'm done. There we go. That one doesn't work. That's anti-plant life. You want to troll your farming neighbor. That's how you do it. But that's pretty much it. I'll be back with more videos another day.